We will spend the next, I think, 20 minutes to have a panel session. So after listening to Aswin and Windy about the program, sharing from Alibaba and especially learning from Jack Ma Internship, now we would like to learn from them as well about building the culture, especially the startup culture. Okay, so learning from Alibaba as Alibaba Empire. Of course, they are not a startup anymore at this moment, but for sure they are successfully to build a lasting startup culture, right? And it's hard to imagine that someone can be able and successful building a startup without envisioning a great and powerful mission. So, I believe some of you have seen the video. If not, it's good for you to see the video later, but don't play it today. So you can find it in the YouTube. So this is a video back in 1990 when Jack Ma split as a crocodile in the Yangtze. So in this video is believed to be the first town hall of Alibaba, with the first founding team member in their first office, which is Jack's apartment. So in this first town hall, Jack Ma shared with his first team. So we are going to compete with. We don't compete with the Chinese e-commerce. We are competing with those in Silicon Valley. So for that, we cannot work 9 to 5. It's not enough. We cannot compete them. So it's clear that we're going to be in the IPO in 2002. Well, despite that they are in the IPO in 2016 with a much greater market capitalization. But it's great that what we learned from Jack Ma is it's good to have a good vision. So my question to Aswin and Windy, actually envisioning a great mission for a long-lasting culture, how much needed a forward-looking to be put in the mission? What do you think? Well, I can share with you.
Okay, I'll start with me. I specifically differentiate vision and mission. So they are often confused. Vision to me is the shape of the company, how it will evolve in the future, and how it becomes, right? The actual entity. Whereas mission is the reason why every one of us wake up every day in the morning and do something. What's the purpose? Now, if the question is about envisioning mission, it's very important. Mission starts also with the entrepreneur, I believe. The STOQO mission is to empower the underserved so that they can work for better life. We believe in people to be able to develop, given the right circumstance, equipment, tools, enabling infrastructure, development, and whatnot, right? So that came from my own personal evolution when I was in Australia before. So it's a bit personal sharing, but I was born in Solo, and I'm a very, very different person from who I am now. I was very shy and others. And I had to remake myself in Australia through a lot of pain, right? Because to build a life and build a career in Australia, I have to change, and I can't be shy, dealing with like lots of Westerners, for example. It happened to me through a lot of pain, and I believe we can make it happen for many, many people in Asia. And that's the fundamental mission that we want to accomplish in STOQO. We believe STOQO is a school where we have STOQOers to develop themselves to be better, to be more capable, so that they can serve our customers also to be better, more capable, and we are developing a holistic ecosystem where the whole country is being pushed forward. So that's the mission.
Yeah.
For me, right, I think I would just slightly rephrase the bit of the question when answering the question with a question, because it's actually a very hard question. So the question was, how much fast forward, right, do you really have to be envisioning when you're, let's say, start up your company? I think the question would be then how passionate are you about your mission? For example, in AwanTunai, right, our mission is to actually enable financial access to people to increase their quality of life. And even though, a lot of people will say, wow, that's a bit vague, what do you mean? But when you talk to me or you talk to people in AwanTunai, we basically, okay, you know what, we want to first start with lending. Why lending? Because initially these people don't even have money. Why should actually people, think about whether they have to choose, whether they need to give their son education versus to actually, buy food, right? Why do they actually have to think about, should I actually, buy a smartphone to get in contact with the rest of the world, or should I actually save my money for working capital loans? So enabling, number one, right? If we think about that, we are not just a lending company, right? A lot of people, I think, sees that about AwanTunai. Yes, we start first in lending. Because why? Because we want to first enable our users to actually have different choices in life. Once they actually have that, we want to actually enable them to save. So if you ask me, Wendy, if you fail in lending, what will you do? I would not only stop in that, right? There's actually a lot more that these people can do. So for example, right now they put their money just underbanked and banked users. They put their money either this is real story. When we go out in the field, we see people actually really still putting their money under their pillow, right, in Indonesia. Or second, they actually put it in cows so that it can be slaughtered during our Ramadan festival. But so they only see what's limited to them, right? But then for us, right, once you're actually able, we give them lending, right? Then they will actually be able to trust us, and then they will actually put their investment in us or the deposit, and then we'll actually be able to make that into better investments for them. And if you think about it later, so then if my money is in there, what can I use that for? So then we're going to payments. So, saying that, right, so how fast forward do you really have to be? I don't know in what sequence it will happen, right? I don't know whether we'll actually be able to do that or not. But if you talk to yourself and you can actually, go beyond just a few sentences about what your mission or what you're passionate about in your business, then I think that's actually quite enough.
Can I just add? I think what Wendy is trying to say also is the vision will evolve as the company gets more sophisticated, but the mission doesn't change. The original mission will endure, and the company will just be more has more products or services to be able to accomplish that mission. Yeah.
Well, you believe in the mission. It has to be reflected in the way of work you're working every day, right? How to make sure your people, the team, also believe in them, and also it will be reflected in the way of the work every day.
So at STOQO, one fundamental way to do that is to have that mission being clarified in the very get-go, so from the very beginning. So the kind of people that we hire or we invite to join at the very beginning sets the culture of the company. And these people tend to have very similar mission as ours, and also very similar values as ours. Values are the set of behaviors that are needed to accomplish the mission, just to clarify. In addition to that, we want to make sure that happens, right? So recently, we did a bit of a step back. We have 10 people in our leadership team already, and we want to make sure that we are all singing the same tune. So I actually ask every one of my leadership team member, what does the mean to you? Why are you here? And what behaviors do we need to put in place to accomplish the mission that we have, right? And surprisingly, a lot of the responses are very similar. So that is a testament of the same song that we are singing on the mission. A lot of the values are quite diverse, but we start to get some of the most recurring themes And we crystallize that set of behaviors you want to have. So we have three things. We want to have the highest integrity possible. We want to have development-based culture where people can develop to never stand still. And we want to have ownership. So we want to make sure that STOQO belongs to everybody in STOQO, not just me or the founders. Yeah.
Yeah, I think when you that your people is always focused on the mission is ownership. But ownership of what? So for me, it was ownership of the problem. So for example, this is what actually happened today, right? We were a bit stressed out with obviously something on development, on production. We just launched something, a couple of bugs. And then suddenly, like there's this merchant team that came to me and said, oh my God, Wendy, you have to talk to this merchant. He's in Kuningan, and you know what? He says that his sales actually increased by 5 times because of AwanTunai. And that moment, it reminded me again, right? Okay, why are we here, right? Because when you're building your company, there will be so many chances where you can actually pivot from your mission, right? Let's say you meet, you meet certain partners, business partners, you meet certain investors, you meet, certain government officials, for example. And obviously they also want to kind of shape a part of your company, and I think that's normal. But how do you make sure that we stay to the mission in our day-to-day work is to actually talk to the people and own the problem. So what is it that we really wanted to solve in the first place? For AwanTunai, it was to actually enabling the users, our unbanked and underbanked, as well as the merchants, to benefit from something that they can't do that because of previously they were not banked. They don't have a bank account, right? So the first thing that I asked my merchant relations, actually that was a UI/UX designer, forgot, was that okay? Did you actually see the users who went in there? Yeah. And I asked, okay, so were they bankable people? No, they were not. They were people who you would expect a warrant owner to be. And I was like, okay. And then all of these issues like in production or whatever, it kind of deplete, right? And then, you get reminded of, okay, so even though we had to go through all of these issues, all of these troubles, right? We are actually creating impact. So I think the closest thing that we can do to make sure that we stay true to the mission is that we stay true to the problem. We stay true to the users, we stay true to the merchants who we are serving. And I think that was actually a really good wake-up call as well. You will always have like these mini wake-up calls, especially when the going gets tough, right? But then it's like what Aswin said, it's the team that actually reminds you, and it's the users who actually reminds you of why you're there.
Just to add, when the going gets tough, those are the most perfect time to test how true you are to your mission, actually. So.
Thank you. It's very good. So I'd like to move to the next slide. We are as a VC, we are doing the deal assessment, right? Almost in our everyday basis. So we select a startup company based on a lot of criteria and assessment. One of them is the people. So the quality of the products, the quality of the entrepreneur, because eventually we invest in people, not just in technology, not in the technology or just product. We invest in people. And one of the key quality that we look in people is leadership as well. In the leadership, we would like to see the order who can endure in any season, who can adapt, who can transform as well. So one of the excitement that puzzled me is I would like to know if we can predict what could be make a successful founders, right? So that's why we did a study to answer my curiosity. So I take a look at our in Indonesia startup ecosystem. So there will be around 30 startup company with already 3 years plus, which already in the Series A and above in terms of financing. And then I take a look at their co-founders and founders. What are their previous occupation before founding this startup? So, so basically, I got that 20% has been in the management consultant. Either right before founding the startup, they are the consultant, or they happen to work with the other startup company or corporate and consulting as well, or they have been setting a startup and it just doesn't work. So overall, 20% of the successful co-founders and founders that still exist today in Indonesia are coming from the consultant. So it's a wonderful consider that we have Aswin and Windy that happen to be ex-consultant as well, ex-management consultant. So keen to understand in terms of leadership, how you find that your management consulting style affect your leadership at the first place when you just getting into this startup land?
Oh, okay. So it was a really, really tough question. I think both two things, right? As an employee in professional service sector, how it actually shaped. I think in this case, right, I was very lucky to be in a company where it really idea meritocracy, regardless of bureaucracy or regardless of status, regardless of who you are, actually is the number one thing that incorporates it all. So, like for example, one of our values in AwanTunai is also the obligation to dissent. So it's not exactly phrased in that way, but basically if you think that somebody else is, let's say, making a decision that you don't believe, that's the true case, it's actually your job to actually say that. And I think that's why I think in AwanTunai it's really, really fun working with people, and because we don't believe that there is a such thing as hierarchy. So, like I can basically say to Dino, who is the CEO, or Rama, who is the co-founder, and I will say things like, "Come on, guys, seriously, is that it? I don't think this is going to solve any problem, right?" But then you obviously have to back up with some data of why it was not. But I think that is one of the key things that actually help, employees in management consultant actually kind of enable them to move into the startup life, because previously it was not really about us, it's really about the client. And in this case, when you move into startup, it's not about you anymore, it's about what's the right answer. So I think that was really, really good thing that I learned back then. But the other thing that I actually had to de-learn was that I actually had to de-learn or unlearn the fact that it's a competition. So basically, if some of you are in maybe like in management consultancy, you would really know the term go up or out. And the way that they determine up or out is they rank you against your peers, right? And then they will basically say, oh, you're performing this way, you're performing that. So it was always like, okay, how good am I compared to others? But in reality, in the startup life, that is one thing I had to unlearn, because competition is really going to start any second. Like for AwanTunai, right now we have about 100 other fintechs, 50% of whom are actually from China. So we also actually have to be a bit the ex-P2P fintechs there that didn't make it there and then they went to Indonesia. If I started to still think, okay, how am I gonna win? How am I gonna beat them? Because coming from China, obviously they have so much better technology, they have so much more capital. I would have stopped, right? If I were still in that mentality of comparison, I would have stopped. But I think the key thing that I learned there was that it is not about winning, like what Aswin was saying. It is about contributing. So as an entrepreneur, I have to unlearn that. It's not about whether your company wins the first or the second, you win market share, that's not it. It's whether you actually contribute to the mission and make the, so I think this is really, really right. So it's like me, right? My team, my army, right? And then, So this is, I think, a really, really good slide. So you have to really unlearn. So those are the three things.
Thank you for sharing. So as we learned today, we have some corporate, some of the people who are still working in the startup, and some of the students. So you can share with Aswin. So what is your self-transformation did you make? As a consultant or as a previous corporate as well, suddenly you get into a startup land that you have to deal with people, not just about the competition, but you also have to deal with unnecessary problem and with people issue, with a lot of startup drama. So you cope with that.
As a starter, I would say that there is no unnecessary problem. It's a problem that I always learn from. But just to answer the question, I think I have to agree with Widdy. So I used to be management consulting, and the management consultants that we work with, we are part of employees very much a Superman model. Okay? So your performance is assessed based on how much you can get done yourself, and not in startup it's actually the other way around. You are performing better as a leader on how much you can get others to get done, pretty much. I actually learned it the hard way, to be honest. There are two elements of this. Number one, when I was a management consultant, to start a startup is actually very difficult. Management consultants are known to be very analytical, and I have to say that founding a company is an emotional decision. If you look at it in any other way, in every way, the rationale doesn't stack up pretty much. If you look at the risk-adjusted probability of how you can make it, and if the reason for founding a company is for the opportunity or for getting rich, then you might as well just do something else, I would say. There is this saying about missionary and mercenary entrepreneur. My opinion is that being a mercenary entrepreneur, which is driven by the opportunity, it's kind of a halfway. Might as well just be part of an investment bank or a corporate make lots of money, or you go all the way to be a missionary entrepreneur. That's what I feel. Now, having said that, when I was pushing to left my previous firm, I was finding a mission in my life, right? And through that, I knew that if I don't sustain myself and force myself and take up all my options, I would probably be end up elsewhere and give up. So I really actively have to take up all my options. And the only one left in my life is to build this company, or to build a company that is aligned to my mission. Going through lots of pain, hit lots of brick walls. But eventually I found that helping small business owners who are underserved means everything in my life, right? And it means it's worth leaving my previous consulting life behind. It's worth leaving my previous life behind outside of education. And I'm here fully dedicated for that cause, okay? So that was the first transformation. I have to step on my consulting hat and not be analytical. It's just like hustle. At some point you can ask my co-founder and my leadership team, sometimes they question me, are you really ex-McKinsey? Like, you are so mad. That was me in a mode of hustling and really pushing hard to find the cause and find the mission. What I learned the hard way also is that at some point I have to let it go. And I was stupid enough not to do that. So as a single hustler, when we built a team, we got people to join, and share that mission together, I have to know when to start letting go and sharing the mission together. The biggest learning I had is that I didn't know when to stop and share properly, and I was being extremely paranoid to share and to actually worry too much that my co-founder, my leadership team would leave if things are not certain. So I ended up doing a lot of the work, being a Superman again, in a consulting mode, and I think that was like one of the most stupid decisions in my life. Because I didn't let them fail, I didn't let them experiment, and I was just owning the failure. I was in a mentality where I'm a founder and I can make a mistake because my mistake capital is unlimited, and that's not true. And I was actually coached by Jeffrey from Alpha not to do that. So I think that was the transformation, right? So being a thinking consultant to be a crazy hustler, and then from crazy hustler to be less crazy and being a proper entrepreneur with some sort of analytical mindset now. That has been my journey.
To add on that, as that of a transformation, you're not just a leading company or just a leading business. You have to deal with people. And when it's come to people, we know exactly what makes people stay. Right? The employee effect, which is the purpose, the engagement, and also happiness. So how you deal with this day-to-day, these three employee effect now? What works, what doesn't work?
I probably can go on with that. So as a starter, in people management, everything starts from recruiting, development, and exits, right? So if you recruit wrong, then you will end up with the wrong people. So if you interview with me, the very first question I ask is, why this problem? Why are you joining a startup? Are you considering to join other large companies? Why now? Because those are the easiest questions to ask to test whether that person is really ready to get into the roller coaster and get to the steepest slope ever. Right? If you haven't tried others, I actually do encourage a lot of people to try. I've done it many times, by the way. When I ask those questions and people were still, I'm still trying this and that, I actually introduce them to people in large companies, in tech or not tech, because I'm lucky enough to have some connections. So the people who join hopefully have the will and the motivation and the mission, which is the same as the startup, right? And because of that, and we are in it together, right? So that's tested again from how we've done survey and we looked at the mission are sounding very, very similar, and the values are very, very similar also. And the day-to-day activity in the startup becomes more of a development for this person to achieve the personal mission that is aligned to the startup mission.
Next slide. Okay, this is interesting because most of the recent article, recent study by the scholar, by the human capital people, more and more established organization and also startup company thinks that performance review and especially annual performance management are cognitive. This is too much because most of the companies now agile, they're changing quite fast, change in focus, change in the resource, change in everything. So having a performance is too much. So now it's time for Mentimeter. I would like to ask you, do you think that performance review is something necessary nowadays, given that's a lot of change nowadays? I understand that this requires you to take a look into your KPI, which is maybe some of them is not relevant today, but you have to assess yourself, to do your scoring, and then to review your peer, review your team. There's a lot of paperwork and cost you time. So do you think it's still necessary, or yes, it is still necessary? Is this still important? I can say that most of people still think this is necessary. What's your view on this?
So the way in AwanTunai that we do performance management is slightly a bit different with what typically the industry or what people typically think of performance management. So for example, when you think about performance management, you think about, okay, here's my KPIs, here's my targets, and then when 6 months or 1 year down the road happens, right, then you're basically told, okay, you did well on this, you did not do well on this, you have to improve, or basically this is your timeout, right? In AwanTunai, we do things very, very differently. So from the very first start, yes, we do have targets, or we call them OKR. So basically, what are the objective and key results for you? So the number one thing that is important for me in performance management is actually only 2 things. Number one, setting the expectations straight, and second is enabling the people to actually have the resources to be able to deliver on those expectations. So take for example, one-on-ones. A lot of people, you know, when the first time I call, okay guys, let's have a one-on-one, I sit in front, I sit in front of them, and then they wait. And I'm like, no, this is one-on-one. And they're like, yeah, one-on-one is the time when you basically tell me how I'm doing. And I'm like, no, it is the time when you tell me how you're doing against your OKR and what you need to do, or what you need basically from me to make sure that that happens. So in AwanTunai, when we have one-on-ones, we actually look at the OKRs and we go one by one, and then they will tell me, right, okay, here's where we're having issues on this, on this, on this. And then we actually do problem solving. So a lot of the times, right, and then it will end, okay, what do you need then to actually make sure that the solution gets delivered? So for example, you know, like recently we discussed, right, okay, one of my product managers for care wasn't being met. And then I asked her, okay, so what do you think that you actually need? What's the issue? And then we went into several issues, and we found out that basically there was a division of work that is actually, the scope is not relevant to her expertise. So what we did was that, okay, you know what do you actually need to do to gain those expertise? Oh, I need to actually be managed with this tech lead, because this tech lead is like the technology lead in a startup company, knows much more about this system. Okay, so we actually have an arrangement for her to be seconded to this tech lead. So the way that we do it is actually very driven by the employee. So it's really not how typically performance management happens. So that's like, let's say for example, one-on-one. And the second part, I think, is the motivation. So I believe like when Erika was saying, right, purpose, engagement, and happiness. I really believe that in AwanTunai, basically 2 things, right? If either whether a person is able to do it is either whether they're motivated to do it, or whether they actually have issues in delivering. So the issues delivery part, that's actually, you know, it gets solved by the one-on-ones, the problem solving, enabling them, what are the solutions. The motivation part is actually very hard. I mean, how do you actually motivate someone to do something, right? And I think this is where you kind of have to have a very strict borderline between people who share your mission versus people who don't actually share your mission. Because no matter how much you try, you cannot instill a feeling. You cannot instill a belief in someone. So for me, performance management is very hard. But I do know that instilling a mission into someone is almost, I would say, very, very impossible, right? You either have it or you don't. So performance management also means what Aswin was saying. You hire the right people. You start off with the right people to begin with. So every time I do their recruitment, I would actually ask, how passionate are you about AwanTunai's mission? Can you actually tell me what's AwanTunai's mission? So I think that's one. And second is that the performance management one-on-one. And I think the hardest thing ever was to actually be able to go into firing. So, potential entrepreneurs, I think one of the hardest things was to actually go and say, okay, this is it. And I actually had a very, very bad situation on that. So when I used to be in Gojek, so that was after McKinsey, I went to Gojek first, and I actually built a Go Life, Go Clean, Go Glam, Go Massage. And I also obviously recruited my friends. So there was like this one guy who is really, really, really open to feedback. Like every time you tell this guy something, right, okay, you're not doing this well, he will be doing anything in his power to basically fix that. Review after review after review, right? Same thing happened, not really that good performing, but he shows potential. And you know, sometimes as a friend, you don't want to, you know, it's very hard to, you think, okay, if I fire this guy, then basically, yeah, he's not gonna be my friend anymore. But then what ended up happening was that the situation got so bad that other people started leaving, right? And this is, at that moment, I realized it was all my mistake. And the moment that I realized that, you know, I sat this person down and I told him, okay, you know, basically looking at this one is not going to work. And you know what he said? He said, thank you for actually saying that. Like, you have been keeping me here and I've been trying, and I also felt like I kind of failed a little bit, but you were basically kind of still suggesting that I'm here. So in a way, for me, performance management is actually also about dealing with people the right way. Number one, it is not fair for your company if somebody is not performing that you keep them. Number two, it's not fair for the other person as well. Because not performing in the role does not mean that they cannot perform in another role, right? And so that's the end-to-end cycle. You start with hiring, you start with how you manage it, and performance management is indeed firing. Yeah, so you do need to be comfortable with firing.
Just to add really quickly, there's a great book called Radical Candor about having tough conversations, and the book actually talks about you'd be surprised on how much people will appreciate that when you're being candor and being honest rather than trying to be indirect.
I think so. One of the things that, you know, people have like AwanTunai, right? But what I really I'm happy is that none of them left in a really kind of state where they were surprised. I've heard a lot of these things happen in startup, right? Obviously, you know, especially you don't invest so much first in the structure, right? So when suddenly 6 months, oh, okay, you know what, it's not been working out, I'm sure you know, and hey, surprise, people don't know, right? So that was something that I wanted to ensure that it changed in AwanTunai, and people have left AwanTunai, but surprisingly, they are actually the ones who resigned. So we don't have to fire them because they were actually feeling the fact that, okay, they were not improving, and the whole team was actually trying to provide everything that's possible. So basically, when somebody is in, we call it PIP, Performance Improvement Plan, most of the other companies will actually say, oh, okay, you know what, we just leave this guy, right? He's going to be out soon. But no, that's, for us in AwanTunai, that's the moment when we actually try to save him or her. That's the moment where we put and invest as much as possible. So when they actually resigned, you know what they said to us was that, thank you because you have actually put faith, you put investment, you put trust. So I think that's how performance management, I think.
The challenge as the leader, I feel, is to really draw that bar for each role, what's expected from each role at different levels, and being able to articulate that very crystal clear across the organization, because it's very unclear, right? You didn't get to see it too much, and it's about people's behavior, a lot of it. But a better leader, I believe, will be able to maintain that consistency and be very, very crystal clear. Everybody's clear what's expected of them, and And again, this is not just expectation on them, but more importantly, expectation on themselves. Because when they are part of a startup, they are there to develop. And if they are not doing that, then they are failing themselves.